Hi, my name is Chase Garrett. I am a professional blues and boogie-woogie piano player. I'm 26 years old and I am an Iowa City native. I've played piano professionally for about the past 9 years, and I've played piano for the past 17 years. I have lived in Iowa City as well as Boston, New York City, Austria, Madison, and St. Louis, and I currently live in both St. Louis and Iowa City, Iowa. I first started playing piano when I was 9. My great-grandma gave me a Scott Joplin CD. If you don't know who Scott Joplin is, he plays the entertainer and Make Believe Rag. If you've ever read an ice cream truck, you've heard Scott Joplin. I guarantee you've heard Scott Joplin. And at that same Christmas when I got this CD of Scott Joplin, my dad and mom gave me a small keyboard for Christmas. It was about 50 keys. And my sister didn't want to take the free lessons that came with this keyboard. It had 2 free lessons that came with the keyboard. So my dad looked at me and said, well, someone's going to take these lessons. So I ended up taking these lessons at the local piano shop, West Music, in Coralville, Iowa. And that's kind of where it all started, I guess. When I was in my early teenage years, I started playing blues piano a lot. I was really inspired by B.B. King and Eric Clapton and Tracy Chapman. And I listened to a lot of these records that my parents had. And when I was 13 years old, I really got into B.B. King, heavily got into B.B. King. And I listened to a lot of his records and really learned a lot of the blues licks that he would do on the guitar for the piano. Not actually piano licks, but guitar licks for the piano. And it wasn't until I was about, maybe 14 or so that I really got into this pianist named Otis Spann. And Otis Spann is my all-time hero for blues piano. He is a Chicago pianist. I can't get enough of Otis Spann. I would listen to him until the day I die. I love Otis Spann. And Otis Spann is Muddy Waters' pianist. I had the chance to meet B.B. King later on in my life, and when I was 16 years old, I went to a B.B. King concert, and I'd seen him, I think, maybe 5 times at this point, so I kind of knew how his concerts were going to go. So towards the end of his concert, I went out to his tour bus with a buddy of mine who went with me, and basically just like hovered around the tour bus in front of the door and would not let anybody get in the bus until I talked to B.B. King. And I ended up talking to him for about 10 minutes, and it was probably one of the most inspiring moments of my life. Just because he talked to me like my grandmother would talk to me, and he told me that I should keep going, that I should keep pursuing my passion, and that I should continue to grow as a pianist as well as the young man that I was at the time. When I was 15 or 16, I first started getting into Boogie-Woogie. And Boogie has become an enormous part of my life up to this point. I was first inspired by this man named Ricky Nye, and Ricky Nye is from Cincinnati, Ohio. And I sent him an email when I was 15 asking him if he was ever going to be in Iowa City. I love Ricky Nye. I loved his music when I was younger, and my dad first got one of his CDs when I was 15 years old. So I listened to a lot of his records, and like I said, I asked him if he was ever going to be in Iowa through this email. And just by random happenstance, he sent me an email back that same week saying that he was going to be in Davenport, Iowa, which is about an hour from Iowa City, that weekend for the first time in his entire life. And it was totally random happenstance. I could not believe he was going to be in Iowa City for the first time in his entire life that weekend. Or Davenport, I should say, not Iowa City, Davenport. But we went to go see him in Davenport, Iowa, and I played one of his songs that was on the CD that my dad had gotten me. And he couldn't believe that I learned one of his songs by ear, which is how I learned. I don't know how to read notes very well. I'll listen to something on YouTube or listen to something by record or tape, and that's kind of how I learn my tunes. So I learned one of his tunes this way, and I played it for him when I first met him. He couldn't believe that I learned his tune. He was totally flabbergasted. And he told me to come to his Blues and Boogie-Woogie Piano Summit. Mine's the Blues and Boogie-Woogie Piano Stomp. This is the Blues and Boogie-Woogie Piano Summit. And that happens in Kentucky each year. This is actually the 17th year he's been doing his. And I was a special guest at the 8th Annual Blues and Boogie-Woogie Piano Summit. And there was a pianist there from Vienna, from the UK, and from the Netherlands. And it was just such a wonderful opportunity to be a part of this. I wasn't on the bill by any means, but I was just a special guest hanging out getting to experience everything with the pianists, especially how Ricky and I organizes his festival. And after this experience of being there, Ricky turned to me and asked me if I wanted to be a part of the Cincinnati Blues Festival the following year because he was on the board for the Blues Festival. And I said, heck yes, I want to be in the Blues Festival, duh. So I went home, back to Iowa, practiced my butt off, got a good set list together, and the following year, and that August, was a featured performer at the Cincinnati Blues Festival, which is a very unique festival because they have their own Blues and Boogie-Woogie piano stage. The only Blues and Boogie-Woogie piano stage in the entire U.S. in Cincinnati, and I got to be a part of it when I was 17. And I met so many wonderful pianists at this festival. And this, because of this festival, it's kind of got me to where I am today in a way that I met so many pianists. I basically invited myself to their houses after the festival to learn more from them. I said, you know, I can perform blues, I can perform boogie. I want to be a part of your festivals. If you have festivals, I'd love to do this. And I would work my butt off if I needed to get in these festivals. I would do anything I could to learn from these pianists. And when I was 19, later on, going a little bit later on in my life, when I was 19, a fortunate yet unfortunate event happened where my mom passed away. But because of this, I was given a little bit of life insurance money, and this was an enormous blessing in disguise. I took this life insurance money and said, I am at a crossroads of what to do. I'm 19 years old, I just graduated high school. Do I go to college and do what you're supposed to do, or do I follow my passion and basically be homeless, but do what I love to do? So I took this money and chose option B. And I was living in an apartment with a few people in Coralville, Iowa, and I decided to repay Ricky and I for what he did for me years earlier, and I thought, how great would it be to have a Blues and Boogie-Woogie event in Iowa City? I love this music. I know other people will love this music if I can just show them how great it is. There's nothing like this here, why not do this here? So I went to the Engler Theater, and I proposed this festival to them, or this show to them at the time, and I literally had a couple of videos on YouTube that I got on YouTube, and I went there, and of course I forgot you need Wi-Fi to play videos. Oh, no. So none of the videos played when I got to the theater, but that's okay. Everything worked out. Everything was fine. I just said, I know this will work. I know we have to do this. So I went to my graphic designer and said, we need some posters for this. How do we make this work? We got some posters. We got some hotels together. I had Ricky and I here. I had a pianist, Bob Seeley, who was 82 at the time, and who was the, quote, creme de la creme of Boogie-Woogie in the U.S., and I had Luis Coloma from Spain. They were all here the first year. And to promote the show the first year, I had 1,500 flyers that I handed out by hand downtown in Iowa City. And it just happened to be the first year that the pianos were out downtown. I'm sure some of you have seen them out this summer, out this fall. And it was such a blessing for them to be out the first year. I had no idea they were going to be out. And I took these flyers, played the pianos every day, handed them out by hand, and said, you guys got to come check this out. It's going to be great. I promise you're not going to forget this. And the first, I don't know, the first night of that concert, I expected there to be maybe 300 people that would show up, and we had 620 people come to the first show. And it was so amazing. I honestly can't describe how amazing it was. It was just almost coming out on stage and seeing everyone in there. It almost made me like tear up a little bit just of how amazing it was to be able to see everyone support this music. And now here we are 6 years later, and this festival is now the biggest boogie festival in the U.S. It went from being 4 pianists, 2 pianos, and an upright bass player and drummer, to now it's a 2-day festival with dance workshops, big bands, trad jazz bands, international boogie-woogie dancers, international pianists, swing dances. It's all there. So it's really grown in the past 6 years to what it is today. And yeah. So this year, as I was saying, at the 6th Annual Blues and Boogie-Woogie Piano Stomp Festival, we have big bands, we have trad jazz bands, we have international blues and boogie-woogie pianists, we have international world champion Boogie-Woogie dancers coming from Sweden and Switzerland. It's hard to pick one thing I'm most excited about, but I think for me the thing I would have to say I'm most excited about would be performing with the big band. I used to be with the Kirkwood Jazz Band when I was at Kirkwood a couple years ago, and I played with the ensemble there too, but I've never been able to perform my own music for the big band, and it feels really incredible to be able to do this. We just had rehearsal yesterday, and I can't wait to show this band off at the English Theater this Friday. I think people are going to be blown away by this. I also have dancers this year, Rasmus and Tovi Holmqvist from Sweden, their brother and sister, and it's the first year we've had dancers at the festival, and I'm really excited to have people see the dancers. And there's also workshops so they can learn directly from these dancers. And there's a swing dance after the festival each night at the Sheraton that's free to go to for anybody who wants to practice their dance moves they learned in the workshops. But I think for me, the thing I'm most excited about from a performer standpoint is working with a big band. We've been working side by side for the past 3 months, and I've worked with the leader, Al Naylor, on a couple tunes that I've written. And like I said earlier, I don't know how to really read notes or notate anything out myself. So I basically just say, this section is going to sound like this, and play, and they're like, this section will sound like this, and I'm playing. So trying to describe that to someone who does notate things and does read music is a little difficult. But we made it happen. It sounds phenomenal, and I cannot wait for everyone to hear it on Friday night. I like the English Theater for a few reasons. First, it's over 100 years old. It's a 103-year-old building, and it's seen a fire. It's been burnt down in 1918. It's been a movie theater throughout the 70s. It was condemned in the late 90s, early 2000s, and then Iowa City loved it so much that they brought it back in mid-2000. I think it's about 10th anniversary right now of being a theater again. And I love the Englert because it is an Iowa City staple. Iowa City folks love the Englert Theater, and it used to be a vaudeville theater. Vaudeville was a type of entertainment in the 1920s where they'd have a variety show, maybe dancing and some sort of show, very showy kind of production. And I'm happy to kind of bring back that style and aspect of performing. I know there were huge big bands that played there in the 40s and 1930s and 40s, and there were a lot of pianists that played there in the 1930s and 40s. And for my performance, I'm very happy to be bringing back that style of music at the Englert. And I think it's very unique for Iowa City specifically, just because I think it's one of the only, if not the only, festival like this in the area. But as far as what my actual favorite part of the Englert Theater is you can't beat being on stage, looking out and seeing a row, just a sea of people in front of you, and then a sea of people right above you. And knowing that they all came to see you perform is one of the most amazing feelings I think I've ever experienced, and I think I will ever experience in my life.